What time is it where you are, and where in the world are you listening from tonight? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. I read everyone. Take a second to subscribe if you haven't already. There's a full playlist of stories like this calm, quiet history to fall asleep to. No tension, no conclusions, just soft voices and slower times. Now settle in. Let the day drift behind you like a cart rolling down a dusty road. Close your eyes if you'd like, or just let them blur while the fire crackles low in the background. Let's walk together to a place that smells of ale and wet straw. A place where boots scuff uneven planks. A place where laughter is low and the stories are older than the beams in the ceiling. Let's visit a medieval tavern. It's late afternoon, and the sun is already tilting toward the western horizon. The air says heavy with the smells of damp wool, horse sweat, and chimney smoke. A cart rolls past, its wooden wheels whining over cobbles slick with mud and refuse. You step carefully, not just to keep your feet dry, but to avoid the mess of what the city pours into its streets. Bits of spoiled vegetables, scraps of leather, hay trampled into slurry. The tavern's just up ahead. You can tell by the sound, not loud. Not yet, but full voices inside. The clink of mugs. The gentle thump of someone's hand against a wooden tabletop. A dog barking briefly, then silence again. The sign above the door is swaying slightly in the breeze, a rough painted board showing a boar's head with a barley stalk clenched between its teeth. The boar and barley. No one remembers when it was first opened. It's been here longer than most of the houses nearby. Long enough that the stone step beneath the door is worn into a shallow dip, carved slowly by generations of tired boots. You reach out and push the door open. It sticks a little, then yields, with a soft creak. Inside, it's darker than you expected. The light slants through a pair of high-set windows, filtered through grime and dust. Everything glows in amber and shadow, as if the tavern itself is made of smoke and old stories. It smells like roasted meat, spilled ale, damp rushes, and something faintly sweet. Maybe mead or last week's cider soaked into the beams. No. One turns when you enter. That's a good sign. A tavern where everyone looks up at once? That's a place where trouble finds you fast. But here they barely glance. You're just another shadow joining the crowd. The tavern is divided into 3 uneven sections. To your left, a low table with 3 men hunched over it, one missing. Half an ear, one with a bandaged hand, and the third with a nose so red it might glow in the dark. They're playing a dice game, quiet and rhythmic, the sound of bone against wood like distant rain. To your right, near the hearth, a pair of women sit beside an old spinning wheel. They're not spinning, just watching the fire and drinking slowly. One of them hums something under her breath, a song you don't recognize. At the center of the room is a long, uneven table, built from planks nailed together with no particular symmetry. A group of travelers sits there now, boots caked in dry mud, cloaks steaming faintly in the warmth. One of them is carving something into the wood with a short, dull knife. Another is wiping the inside of his mug with a finger and inspecting it as though it holds secrets. A boy, but not more than 10, moves between tables with a cloth and a bucket. He's wiping down surfaces, collecting empty mugs, ignoring the conversations around him. Behind the bar is a woman in her 50s, heavy hands, heavier apron, and eyes that look like they've seen everything and judged half of it. She's pouring, slowly from a wooden cask, her movements unhurried, precise. This place doesn't run on speed. It runs on familiarity. You walk to the bar and nod. She nods back. No words exchanged. You don't need to speak yet. That comes later, after the first drink loosens your jaw. She pours from the cask into a thick-walled mug and slides it across the counter. The foam rises just to the brim, holding steady. You set a coin down. She doesn't pick it up right away. She waits, just in case you're feeling generous, and decide to add another. You don't. She shrugs, still doesn't speak. You carry your drink to the window and sit on the bench beneath it. It creaks, but holds. The table in front of you has a dozen knife marks, some crossed out, some carved. Deeper, as if someone wanted their name to last longer than others. You wonder how many people drank here and forgot they ever did, how many secrets the room holds, how many nights ended with laughter, or fists, or both. You sip the ale. It's flat, slightly sour, but warm enough to keep your stomach from complaining. A man near the fire begins to speak louder, not angry, just louder, telling a story about a pig he tried to sell to a friar who turned out to be a woman in disguise. The punchline doesn't make sense, but the room laughs anyway, not because it's funny, but because it's expected. Laughter in a tavern is like smoke from the hearth. Even if it's thin, it's still a sign of life. Someone near the door coughs, a long rattling sound that makes the dog sitting beneath the table stand up and stretch. The dog walks over to you, sniffs your boots, then lies down at your feet like you belong to it, you. Don't move. You've been chosen. The hours pass gently. No one rushes. The fire burns low, then is stoked again. The boy clears more mugs. The woman behind the bar steps out once to speak to someone in the alley, then returns with a sack of potatoes. Over her shoulder, the man with the carving knife finishes whatever he was making and leaves it on the table, a tiny wooden fox, no bigger than a thumb. No one takes it, but everyone notices. Tiny offerings like that are common in places like this, reminders that even the drunkest hands can make something worth keeping. You don't speak to anyone for a long time, and no one speaks to you, but that doesn't mean you're alone. In a medieval tavern, silence is its own kind of belonging. You exist here as part of the rhythm, part of the breathing, the creaking, the steady tap of ale being poured. You could stay all night, and many do, not because the beds upstairs are comfortable. They're not. But because the warmth, the dimness, the sameness, it dulls the edge of the outside world. And tonight, that's enough. Someone begins to sing. Off-key, but softly. A song about sailors and rivers and a girl who turned into a swan. It doesn't matter if the words are right. It only matters that they're sung. You lean back, close your eyes, let the sound wash over you. The laughter. The fire. The hum of a room that has outlived kings and plagues and winters with no bread, and still serves ale, still keeps its doors open, still offers a place to rest, even if only for a little while, even if you never come back. Outside, the sky is nearly black now. Not the clean kind of night you see in stories, all crisp stars and bright moons. This is a medieval night, thick and weighty, full of soot, mist, and the sour breath of narrow alleys. There are no lamps in the street, just the occasional flicker from behind shuttered windows, or the glow spilling out the tavern's warped glass. You're still seated on the bench by the window, the dog still asleep at your feet, paws twitching as if chasing something in a dream, maybe a chicken bone, maybe a memory. Inside the tavern, the sound has shifted, not louder, just heavier. Voices are lower now, slower, leaning toward muttered secrets and tired jokes. The door swings open again. A gust of cold air follows two men inside, cloaked in thick wool, faces hidden beneath hoods. They don't speak. They just move to a far table, sit, and say nothing. The barkeep doesn't question them. She never does. In this place, anonymity is common currency. One of the travelers, the younger one who'd been carving, has fallen asleep at the center table. His head rests on his arms, and someone has thoughtfully placed a cloth over his shoulders. Not to keep him warm, more a gesture of quiet. He earned his sleep. People in medieval taverns often do. Sleep here isn't like sleep in your own home. It's thinner, lighter, more like resting your eyes than dreaming. But it counts, especially after a long day walking behind a cart or chasing livestock across stony fields. The spinning women near the hearth have left, replaced by a man with ink-stained fingers and a limp, a clerk or perhaps a low-ranking notary. He drinks alone, occasionally writing something on scraps of parchment, using a broken feather and a pot of watered-down ink. Whatever he's writing won't survive the winter, but that's not the point. Writing is a form of remembering, and remembering is a form of resistance. The barwoman is humming now, low and wordless, as she wipes down the edge of the counter with the same cloth she's used since sundown. She wipes in slow, circular motions, never quite cleaning anything, but never letting it get worse either. She glances at you just once. Her look says, "Still here." You nod faintly. Her eyes soften just a bit. Then she turns and begins slicing onions with a dull blade. They make no sound as they fall into the wooden bowl. The two hooded men speak at last, not to each other, to the room. One stands, raises his mug, and says something about a mill that burned down near the river. You can't tell if it's a toast or a warning, but no one answers, not directly. Someone mutters something into their mug. Someone else coughs, and the moment dissolves like ale. Into bread. The man sits again. They drink, and the room breathes out. You rise slowly. Your legs are stiff. Your back aches faintly from leaning against the uneven wall. The dog watches you, then lays its head back down. You cross the room toward the hearth, not to warm yourself, just to be nearer the quiet. There's a stool there, 3 legs, uneven, but solid, you take it. The heat is strong on your left side, cool on your right. The fire is mostly coals now, with a few slow-burning logs radiating warmth like old secrets. Someone has dropped a spoon into the ashes. It glints faintly. No one retrieves it. A group of labourers enters next, loud, red-faced, arms already around each other's shoulders. They reek of hay and sweat and cheap wine. Their laughter is immediate but not threatening. Just tired. Just trying. They move to the corner table, the one that leans slightly downhill, and begin pulling coins from a shared pouch. Not many coins, but enough. Enough for bread, maybe stew if there's any left. The boy from earlier returns from the back room with a fresh bucket and a new cloth. He looks older than he did 2 hours ago, but his hands are steady now. He moves like he belongs, because he does more than most. You watch as someone stokes the fire again. This time, it's the notary, the man with ink on his fingers. He does it gently, using the fire iron like a pen, tracing circles in the embers, arranging logs not for heat but for beauty, or perhaps rhythm. No one thanks him, but the warmth returns anyway. There's food now, simple stuff. A stew of some kind, thin but hot, full of lentils, onions, bits of root vegetables, and something that might have once been a bone. The barwoman ladles it out herself, into thick wooden bowls smoothed by hundreds of meals before yours. She doesn't smile, but she serves with care, quiet care, the kind that says, "I don't know your story, and I don't need to." You accept the bowl. It's a. Warmth seeps into your palms. You eat slowly. There's no rush. No one here is rushing. The stew tastes of salt, smoke, and thyme. The kind of food that makes you feel full even when it's gone. A man begins to sing. Different voice this time, older, raspier, as if he swallowed gravel in his youth, and it never left. The song is about a girl who danced in the snow, barefoot, and left footprints that bloomed into flowers by spring. Someone joins in on the chorus, out of tune but with enthusiasm. Another claps, but no one shouts. The tavern absorbs sound the way old trees absorb wind, softly without complaint. You finish your meal and leave the bowl where you found it. No one takes it away. Not yet. That's not your concern. You lean back, watching the room as it slows further. The clerk is asleep now. One of the laborers has passed out on his friend's shoulder. The boy has gone somewhere. Maybe upstairs to rest, maybe outside to fetch more water. The woman behind the bar has stopped moving. She sits on a stool behind the counter, arms folded, eyes closed. Not asleep. Just still. The only sound now is the fire, a gentle pop every so often, and the steady breathing of a dozen tired souls trying not to think about tomorrow. Outside, the wind has returned. It whispers against the wooden door, a reminder. The world hasn't gone anywhere, it's just waiting. But in here for now you're safe, not warm, not welcome, but safe. And in the medieval world, that's as close as you get to comfort. You let your head rest against the wall. The fire flickers, the shadows sway. You don't sleep yet, but you don't wake either. You just float. Part of the room, part of the old beams, the old air, the long. Memory of the Boar and Barley, a tavern that forgets nothing and welcomes no one and still keeps the door open. The candle on your table burns lower now, its flame fluttering each time the tavern door creaks or someone shifts their boots too close. Melted wax pools at the base, cools, and hardens like pale rivers along the wooden grain. Most of the voices have quieted, not gone, just softer, the way ocean waves don't disappear at night. They just fall into rhythm with the dark. One of the laborers stirs in his sleep. His arm slides off the bench and lands with a thud that nobody reacts to. His friend grumbles something unintelligible and adjusts his own position, wrapping his cloak around both of them like brothers pressed together for warmth on a bitter road. Across the tavern, the clerk with ink-stained fingers is snoring now, slow, steady, like the breathing of a sleeping horse. His scraps of parchment are scattered across the table like fallen feathers. One has been half burnt at the edge by a candle that burned out long ago. No one gathers them, no one reads them. This is a place where even stories are allowed to sleep. The wind outside groans against the shutters, a soft, hollow sound. You imagine? The street beyond, empty now apart from a few nightwalkers pulling cloaks tight against their shoulders. A woman returning from the bathhouse, a butcher's boy sent for broth, maybe a priest with his face hidden, stepping quietly from one shadow to the next, but they don't come in. Not yet. They pass like memories, not quite seen, not quite real. The tavern remains a pocket of dim warmth, suspended in time. Unbothered by the frost building in the eaves or the rats running beneath the floorboards, you shift your weight. The stool beneath you groans. Your spine aches where it meets the back wall. Not sharply, just enough to remind you that you've been sitting for a long time, and this wood was not carved for comfort. But you don't stand, you watch. That's what people do here. They sit and watch, and breathe together in silence that says more than conversation ever could. The barwoman is still at her post. She hasn't spoken all night, only moved, served, observed. Her eyes scan the room not like a guard's, not suspicious or afraid, but like someone counting sheep in a familiar field. She knows each one by shape, by movement, by how they stir their drink or lean when they speak. Her hands move almost independently of thought, wiping down a mug that's already clean, polishing a spoon that hasn't been used since morning. The hearth cracks again, louder this time. A spark jumps, dances on the floorboards for half a heartbeat, then dies. No one flinches. A new visitor enters. The door opens slower this time, carefully, and a man steps through wearing robes instead of rough cloth. Not noble robes, not silk, but something stitched with care. Blue-grey wool tightly wrapped with a hood thrown back to reveal a pale, narrow face and eyes that seem used to dark rooms. He's alone. No sword, no bag, just a small pouch hanging. At his waist and the faint scent of herbs clinging to his clothes, the barwoman looks up, not startled, but interested. She nods once, short and subtle. The man returns it and crosses to the far end of the bar, taking a seat where no one else is. You watch as he's handed a bowl, not stew this time, but something darker, thicker. He drinks it slowly, eyes closed as though it's medicine more than food. Perhaps it is. Another log is placed on the fire, this time by the boy who'd vanished hours ago. He's returned with his hair wet, cheeks red from cold, eyes rimmed with soot. He moves without speaking, without asking, the kind of child who's learned that staying quiet gets you further than being clever. His hands are blistered from the pail's rope handle, and his sleeves are damp from the wrist down. But he moves with care, reverence even. He tends to the fire like someone feeding an elder, and then disappears again, not upstairs, but into the side pantry, through a creaky door barely wide enough for a grown man's shoulder. Someone coughs, one of the laborers. Deep and wet, the room pauses, not from fear but habit. You've seen this pause before, in rooms where disease has passed too recently, where every cough recalls a brother buried too young or a mother who never returned from the summer fever. The cool man lifts a hand, gestures. "Just ale," he says with a wheeze, and the room resumes, not quite relaxed, but accepting. You find yourself leaning forward now, resting your elbows on the table. The wood is sticky in places, soft in others. It has the texture of stories, of time, of hands that gripped too tightly when saying goodbye, and others that trembled after their third mug. There are names carved into it, so many names. One of them reads Leia, another, half obscured by a burn mark, says gone but full. Another is just a symbol, a circle and a line, scratched again and again like someone trying to remember the shape of something lost. You trace it absently with your finger. You don't know who made. But you understand it, that's enough. The hooded man finishes his bowl. He stands slowly, leaves a coin behind that. No one touches, and walks out without another glance. His presence is not mentioned, not by the barwoman, not by the others. It will be remembered, of course. Everything in this tavern is remembered, but rarely spoken aloud. This is a place of quiet memory, not loud retellings. The night deepens. A woman in the corner begins to hum, not a song this time, but a lullaby, wordless, warm. She rocks slightly, as if holding a child no one else can see. She might be mad, or lonely, or simply remembering, and here that's allowed. She won't be judged, she won't be asked to stop. This room holds people the way winter holds snow, gently, but without illusion. Your mug is empty. You hadn't noticed. You turn it slowly in your hands. Let the warmth of the memory linger on your fingers. No one comes to refill it. You don't ask. The room is settling now, preparing for its long, shallow sleep. No one speaks above a whisper. No one stands quickly. The fire is no longer being stoked. It's being observed, allowed to burn down, allowed to finish what it started. Like everything else here. Outside, a rooster crows once and confused. Too early, it's not morning yet, but close. The air has changed, the cold is thinner now. You can feel dawn in your bones, even if the sky hasn't admitted it. A few people stir, a few gather cloaks. One of the labourers stumbles to his feet, winks at the bar woman, then stumbles again. She doesn't help him, just watches him go. He'll make it home, or he won't. That's not the tavern's concern. You exhale. Let your shoulders fall. Let your head tilt back just slightly. So the firelight hits your closed eyes. You don't sleep, but you dream, not of fields or castles or battles, just of this. This bench, this mug, this room, this moment in the middle of a forgotten night, in a forgotten village, in a tavern that was never meant to be remembered, and yet will be by you, by the wood, by the coals. The first light hasn't touched the window yet, but the room feels thinner somehow, like a held breath waiting to be released. Most of the guests are still curled in place, hunched over benches, draped across tables, or slumped against the wall, in borrowed sleep. The kind of sleep that's not restful, not complete, but just deep enough to take the edge off exhaustion. A few embers still glow in the hearth, a soft red pulse like the beating heart of the room. Your own eyes are heavy now, but you haven't truly closed them. You drift in a quiet in-between, where the fire crackles in slow motion, and even your thoughts come softened, like cloth soaked in warm water. And then, across the room, a chair creaks. Deliberately, a sound that breaks through the hush, like the slow opening of a door inside a dream. It's the old man, the one who's been sitting in the back since you arrived. You hadn't noticed him until now. No one did. But of course he was always there. Every tavern has one. Long beard, the color of oak bark, skin like parchment that's been left too close to the fire. He wears a faded brown tunic that hangs from him like a memory. One hand rests on a cane, not for walking, but for emphasis. He hasn't spoken all night. Not a word, not a cough, just listened, breathed, and waited. Now he speaks, not loudly, just undeniably. He tells a story. Of course he does. Not to you, not to anyone in particular. He simply speaks into the room like someone dropping pebbles into a pond, not to make waves but to see how far they ripple. His voice is soft but gritty, like boots over dry straw. The kind of voice that has told this tale before, maybe 100 times, maybe never quite the same way. He speaks of a winter many years ago. A winter so long, he says, even the snow forgot how to melt. He describes how the river froze so thick they could march cattle across it, but the cattle fell through anyway, the ice shattering like thin promises, swallowing hooves and horns and breath. How the ale ran dry by January. How the priest gave up on sermons and started playing dice. How this very tavern stayed open, barely, because a woman traded her wedding ring for enough flour to make onion bread 3 nights in a row. He says her ghost still visits sometimes when the oven is hot and the moon is thin. No one laughs, no one questions, because this is what old men do in taverns just before dawn. They open the floorboards of memory and let the cold air rise. You don't move. You barely breathe. You just listen. The room is silent, but awake now. Every pair of half-lidded eyes focused, every ear tuned. Even the dog at your feet lifts its head and stares. The barwoman doesn't interrupt. She leans against the wall near the back, arms folded, watching the old man the way one watches a candle about to gutter out. not with fear, but respect. He finishes his story not with a moral, but with a question. Do you think the snow remembers the footsteps that walked across it? No one answers, not aloud, but a few nod. One of the laborers sighs into his arm. The boy, now returned from wherever he disappears to between moments, sets a cup of water in front of the old man without being asked. The man drinks, slowly, then closes his eyes. He's said what he came to say. Maybe he'll speak again next winter, maybe never. Outside, the first bird sings. It's not melodic, just a scratchy single note. But it carries through the shutters like a thread pulled through the fabric of the night. Morning is near, not quite present, but close enough that the air begins to shift inside the tavern. You feel it in your chest, the tension of something, ending or beginning. The liminal hour when decisions must be made, go home or stay longer, rise or sink deeper into the quiet. The stew pot is empty now. A single crust of bread lies on a plate near the bar, hardened from the air, too dry to chew but too sacred to throw away. The boy begins collecting mugs one by one, carefully, gently. He doesn't disturb anyone who's still sleeping. He simply moves around them like water around stone, lifting, stacking, carrying. The barwoman helps him, saying nothing. You watch them both, and for the first time you realize they might be mother and son, or maybe not. Maybe aunt and nephew, or maybe just two people who found each other in a world that forgets too easily. It doesn't matter. In this place, bonds aren't spoken aloud. They're shown in movement, in who you clean up after, in who you feed first, in who you let fall asleep without judgment. A young couple stirs near the hearth. Not romantic. Just two travelers who ended up near each other. The woman wraps her scarf more tightly. The man shrugs into his coat. They nod to the barwoman as they leave, placing 2 copper coins on the sill beside the door. Not enough for a full night, but the right amount for being quiet and not causing trouble. She accepts it with a glance. Nothing more. You think about leaving. You almost stand. But the stool holds you, so you stay just for a few more breaths, a few more flickers of that tired fire, a few more sounds. Mugs being rinsed in cold water, boots dragging across straw, a stool being turned upside down and leaned against the wall. The tavern is closing, not in the loud way, not with brooms and bells and shouts, but in the medieval way, softly, inevitably, like a candle that burns out not because someone blew on it, but because it was finished. A rooster crows again, this time stronger. The sky through the window is grey now, no longer black. You can almost see the outline of the crooked tree that leans over the tavern's roof. Its branches are bare, but they stretch like fingers remembering warmth. You rise at last, your legs are numb, your back aches, but your breath feels longer, slower, anchored. You set your empty mug on the bar. The barwoman doesn't say goodbye. She doesn't need to. She simply nods once as if to say you were here. And that's enough. The door opens easily now, no creak, no resistance. The morning air is cold and damp, but honest. You step outside. The street is still empty, but you know it won't be for long. Chickens will stir. Merchants will shout. Someone will sweep a doorway and curse the mud tracked in by strangers. And by midday the tavern will be full again. New stories, old faces, mugs raised not in joy, but habit. The boar and barley will live another day, and no one will remember your name, but the bench will still be there, the fire will still be warm, and if you ever return, you'll be part of it again. Like smoke, like shadow, like a song with no beginning and no end. Outside the sky is no longer grey. It has turned the pale gold of thin broth. the kind served after fasts or funerals. The rooftops wear a sheen of dew, and chimneys begin to bleed smoke into the sky again, as fires are rekindled from last. Night's embers. You haven't gone far, just to the edge of the muddy street, enough to stretch your back and feel the stiffness lift from your legs. Your boots press faint impressions into the soft earth, not deep but clear enough to prove you were there. For a moment you stand still, just breathing. A cart rattles somewhere in the distance. A rooster crows again. The tavern behind you is quiet now, its windows shuttered, its door cracked open just slightly to let the morning in, or to let the ghosts out. You consider walking on, but your feet betray you, and before long, you're stepping back inside. The boar and barley is empty. Now almost the dog is gone, the clerk has left. The travellers and the old man too. Only the barwoman remains, and the boy. They're wiping tables, sweeping straw into piles, folding worn cloths with motions too precise to be accidental. This isn't cleaning. Not really. This is preparation. You hesitate at the doorway, but she nods. Again, just once. So you take your old seat by the wall, and the one that creaks just a little too much when you lean, and holds warmth a little too long when you sit. It welcomes you like a coat forgotten on a familiar hook. A pot boils over the fire, not the same stew as last night. This one smells sharper, onions, garlic, maybe a scrap of salted fish stirred, in from a tin. The kind of meal meant not to please but to awaken. The boy ladles it into a chipped wooden bowl and sets it in front of you without asking. The spoon is carved from bone. Light but sturdy. You don't speak, you just eat. And with each bite, the memories of the night settle into your ribs like stones in a deep pocket. A few new faces arrive. It's morning now, which means a different kind of visitor. The first is a baker's apprentice, his apron dusted in flour, his cheeks red from the oven heat. He orders nothing, just rests for a moment in the doorway, pulls a small heel of bread from his pocket, and chews in silence. The second is a washerwoman, strong arms, hair tied back in a scarf. She pays for a mug of warm ale, sips slowly, and doesn't look. Up from her hands. They're cracked and red from lye. She doesn't need company, just a pause. Just the kind of silence that belongs to rooms like this. The boy disappears into the pantry again. He's always going somewhere, and always returning. Each time more tired, more grown. The barwoman watches him with a softness she never uses on anyone else. She wipes her hands on her apron and adjusts one of the crooked chairs. Not because anyone asked, but because that's what you do in a place that remembers things. Even crooked chairs deserve their rituals. You sip the broth until it's gone. Not a drop left. The spoon rests gently in the bowl, as if it knows it has done its work. Outside, the cart you heard earlier rolls into view, drawn by two sleepy-looking oxen and driven by a boy no older than the one inside. His boots hang off the edge of the cart, swinging gently as he whistles a song only he seems to know. The cart holds barrels, maybe cider, maybe something stronger. It pulls up beside the tavern. The barwoman opens the door wider. No words exchanged, just odds. Everything is nods in this place. Language is heavy, head movements are lighter. As the barrels are rolled inside, you step away from your seat, just for a moment. You walk toward the far wall, the one with the carvings, names, dates, symbols. Each one a fragment of someone's night, someone's moment. You run your hand across a patch where the wood has darkened, not with fire, but with time, with spilled drinks, pressed fingers, tears maybe. Who knows? You find a new name etched into the corner, J.L. 1347, fresh, not too deep. Maybe someone who passed through last week. Maybe someone who didn't make it past the door. You don't know who they were, but you nod anyway, because someone should. You return to your seat. The barwoman brings a new mug. Not ale this time, but something herbal, warm, almost sweet. You don't know what's in it. You don't ask. In taverns like these, you don't drink for flavor. You drink for memory, for warmth, for forgetting, for beginning again. The room fills slowly. By mid-morning, there are 6 people inside. 2 guards, off duty, still in half mail and smelling faintly of smoke. A merchant woman counting coins from a pouch with a tear in the corner. A bearded man in scholar's robes who orders nothing and writes constantly on a slate with a chunk of coal. And a child, perhaps 5 years old, sitting cross-legged near the hearth, watching the fire as if it's speaking to him. No one asks why he's alone. In medieval taverns, children appear and vanish without notice. Some are orphans. Some belong to staff. Some belong to no one. But here he's safe. No one harms a child in the boar and barley. The barwoman sees to that. The merchant drops a coin under the table. It rolls to your feet. You bend to pick it up, not out of greed, just habit. It's thin bent, stamped with a worn image of a bishop or a stag. The details are hard to make out. The kind of coin that has passed through 1,000 hands, each one forgetting where it came from. You hand it back. She nods without smiling, but she keeps the coin, because a coin returned is luck. That's one of the tavern rules. Never keep what? Rolled to you outside, the sun climbs higher. You can hear the village now, real and waking, vendors shouting, hooves clattering, bells ringing from the chapel tower. Inside, though, nothing changes. The tavern stays dim, not dark, just shaded, just hushed. A world inside a world, like the pocket inside a coat where you hide your last good button. A chicken struts in through the open door. No one flinches. The boy reappears, gently guides it back outside, but not before it leaves a small mess near the fire. The child near the hearth giggles. The scholar smiles, just barely, before continuing his writing. The tavern swallows the moment, digests it, and continues, as it always does. You don't know how long you'll stay. You've lost track of time. But time moves differently here. It's not hours and minutes. It's mugs and bowls and stories and silences. It's the sound of a chair scraping. It's the glance exchanged between 2 strangers. It's the moment just before someone speaks and decides not to. You lean back, let your shoulders soften, let your breath match the rhythm of the fire, and you remember you were only supposed to pass. Through just one drink, just one story, but the tavern had other plans. By the time the sun stands directly above the tavern's sagging roof, the village street outside has become a narrow river of noise. Wagon wheels shudder in the mud. Children chase each other past vendors, shouting about salted fish and tallow candles. And somewhere a dog barks at a shadow it will never catch. But inside the boar and barley the world is muffled. The shutters have been closed halfway, not latched, just tilted to let in light, but not clamour. Thin gold lines break across the floor, catching dust in mid-air like beams of memory floating just long enough to be noticed. The fire has been reduced to a low, glowing basin of red. Not hot enough to boil anything now, but just enough to warm. The bones of those who haven't moved since morning. Like you, like the scholar in the corner with the coal-stained fingers, like the washerwoman, who now leans her head back against the wall, her mug still full, her eyes half-lidded with sleep that will not quite come. The merchant is gone. So are the guards. But others have come. A man with a wooden leg and a voice like gravel sits with his back to the window, tracing the rim of his cup with one finger. He doesn't speak, doesn't drink. just holds the warmth between his palms. Near him, a pair of siblings, no older than 12, whisper back and forth in a dialect you don't recognize. Their bread is dry and their coins are few, but the boy has a kindness in his posture, and the girl stirs her broth with such care it feels ceremonial. The barwoman does not charge them, or perhaps she does, but not in coin. There are debts in taverns, like these that never touch silver. The boy, the one who always moves, is scrubbing something behind the bar. A stain, maybe, or just a stubborn patch of old wood. His back is bent. His shirt clings to him with sweat, but he works in silence, as always, without complaint, as if this tavern were a living thing and he its only caretaker. Once he looks up, and your eyes meet. He doesn't smile, but you see something in him that you hadn't before. Not servitude, but duty. Not fatigue, but faith. He believes in this place, even if no one else does. The door creaks open again. It's mid-afternoon now, the hour when laborers break for bread and old women fetch herbs before the apothecary closes. But the figure who enters is neither. She wears a dark green shawl over her head. Her shoes are soft leather. Her hands are too clean for farm work. She's older, perhaps 60, but stands tall and still like someone trained to be watched. A noblewoman, maybe, or something close. But she doesn't speak in a noble tongue. When she addresses the barwoman, it is in the plain dialect of the region. "I heard this place still serves the old stew," she says. The barwoman doesn't answer. She simply nods and disappears into the kitchen. You watch the woman as she sits. She chooses the table near the hearth, where the ashes are quiet, and the warmth is gentle. She removes her shawl. Her hair is braided, silver with streaks of black, pinned with a wooden stick carved into the shape of a leaf. She doesn't look at anyone, but she feels seen. Even the child on the floor pauses to glance at her, then turns back to the fire as though warned not to stare. The stew comes, not thick, not rich but honest. The woman dips her spoon and breathes in deeply, her shoulders relaxing just slightly. Then, in a soft voice meant for no one, she says, "My father used to bring me here." The words hang in the room like candle smoke. "No," one responds. She does not expect them to. In the Boar and Barley, memories don't need approval, they just need space. Outside, bells ring in the distance, not the church bells this time, but the iron bell of the town crier. Someone is announcing new prices for rye, or a lost cow, or a message from the bishop. It doesn't matter. No one inside moves. News travels slowly in taverns like this, and more often than not it arrives long after it stops being useful. Here it's not news that matters, it's presence. Breath, company. The scholar in the corner finally stops writing. He sets down his coal, wipes his fingers on a cloth that was once white. He hasn't spoken all day. Now he clears his throat and recites a line from a forgotten poem. "Let bread be dry and wine be sour, if company be kind, and the hour not late." The old woman nods once. The barwoman pauses her movement for just a moment. The boy says nothing, but his eyes soften. You've never heard the line before, but somehow it feels like something you've always known. The afternoon light begins to tilt, slanting across the floorboards like the hand of a sundial growing tired. The tavern shifts with it, not obviously, but subtly. The boy finishes his scrubbing. The barwoman refills the water jugs. Someone places a coin on the bar, not for a drink, but just to say, "I was here." The woman in green rises, wraps her shawl around her again, leaves her bowl half full, and walks out without looking back. The scent of her stew lingers, not pungent, just faint enough to become memory. The scholar picks up his slate again. The siblings share a quiet laugh. The man with the wooden leg hums a tune no one else knows. The fire shifts in the hearth, revealing a new coal that had been hidden in ash. You think again of leaving, but the thought doesn't take root. Your body knows what. Your mind does not. You are still part of the room, still held by it, and leaving now would feel ungrateful, as if you hadn't finished your side of a silent conversation. So you remain, breathing, listening, becoming one more shadow on the tavern wall. The light begins to fade. The shutters are opened slightly to catch the last stretch of sun. You see it spill across the wooden table, catching in the scratches and grooves like gold finding the lines in an old face. And in that moment, the tavern doesn't feel like a place. It feels like a person, old, gentle, worn, still alive, still waiting. The golden light on the table doesn't last. It never does. Soon it shifts, from gold to amber, from amber to grey. The last line of sun curls like smoke up the wood and vanishes, replaced by shadow and hush. You look around and realize something you hadn't noticed. The tavern never became crowded, but it never emptied either. It breathes, this place. People come and go, like waves through an open window. But there's always just enough presence to feel shared, just enough quiet to hear your own heart steady itself. The boy lights a candle, then another, not hurriedly, not like he's fighting the dark, but as though he's inviting it to sit with him, gently, respectfully, the way you'd offer a stool to a guest who smells of rain and moss and memory. The candles are not fresh. Each one has been lit before. You can see the drips and curls. They have past burnings like small frozen waterfalls down their sides. They flicker in time with the room, never too brightly, never too still. Just enough to keep the shadows from forgetting their place. By now the tables are fewer. The siblings have gone, the scholar too, but a new figure has arrived. He sits close to the door, hood still up, hands still gloved, face shadowed, but he carries no threat, no weight of violence, only the posture of someone who's traveled far without speaking and isn't ready to begin again just yet. The barwoman doesn't greet him. She doesn't need to. She simply sets down a cup, something dark, warmed over coals, smelling faintly of herbs, and walks away. Outside the wind rises. You hear it scratch across the shutters, whisper along the chimney stones, stir the straw by the door. It carries the taste of wood smoke and something colder underneath. The first sign of winter coming, not in frost but in silence. The kind of silence that wraps around villages and makes even the dogs sleep longer. Inside, no one speaks. Not because they can't, but because they don't need to. In a place like this, the longer the silence, the deeper the bond. Words are for the impatient. Here, stillness is a form of conversation. You sip your own cup, something the boy placed beside you without asking. It's not the same as this morning's broth, nor the sweet herb drink from earlier. This is simpler, thin, warm, made from root or bark or something old and boiled, until it forgot what it was supposed to taste like. But it feels right in your hand. You hold it with both palms and let the warmth crawl into your fingers, up your wrists, into the places where tiredness hides across the room. The man with the wooden leg hums again. Same tune, still unfinished, still beautiful. The barwoman pulls a chair to the hearth. She sits, not for long, not with ceremony, just long enough to place her feet near the low-burning fire and close her eyes. Not fully, just enough to dim the world by half. The boy is now behind the bar again, slicing something. Bread, maybe. The crust scrapes beneath his knife like dry leaves, and for a moment you are reminded of walking, long ago, through a forest before first frost. When everything is brittle and brown and the sky feels too big for the earth, you close your eyes just for a breath, and when you open them, the man near the door is gone. You didn't hear him leave. But the door is slightly ajar, and a single wet footprint remains on the floorboards. Just one. Then nothing. The kind of exit that isn't dramatic, only inevitable. A bell rings faintly in the distance. Evening prayers, or the last bell before the city gates are sealed for the night. But no one moves. Not yet. You take another sip. The tavern is warmer now, though no new logs have been added to the fire. Warm not with heat, but with presence, with weariness shared and softened, with breath. Then, without warning, a laugh, just one, short, low, honest. The man with the wooden leg chuckles at something unseen, maybe a memory, maybe a thought, maybe the sheer absurdity of being alive long enough to drink quietly in a room like this. He raises his cup, not to anyone in particular, and murmurs, "To the chairs that still hold us." You raise yours too, and so does the barwoman without opening her eyes. The boy, still slicing, pauses, smiles just a little, and continues. The candles burn lower. Wicks curl like sleeping cats. Wax pools into the shallow plates below. The light now is dreamlike. Gold turned to honey, honey turned to smoke. Shadows rise along the walls like old friends taking their places for the night. No one leaves, no one enters. The tavern has chosen its companions for the evening, and the evening has agreed. You lean back, close your eyes, and for the first time in what might be days or years, you feel what the scholars in their tall towers call peace, but what the rest of the world just calls enough. Outside, the wind howls once more, then fades. The moon, though unseen, must be high now, its pale hand pressing down softly across rooftops and thatch, through shutters and cracks, into the places where candles flicker and sleep begins. Inside the tavern, the fire drops another ember. It lands in the ash and glows quietly, then fades, not out, just deeper. You remain, so do the others, a room of slow hearts and long silences, and above it all, the boar and barley listens. Its beams creak gently, its walls hold steady, and its story continues, not in shouts, not in songs, but in the stillness shared between those who ask nothing and offer everything, just by being here, just by staying. The night does not arrive like a thunderclap. It doesn't even knock. It seeps through the grain of the shutters, through the cracks in the lintel, along the floorboards, slowly, like ink across cloth, like memory into dream. The last candle flickers once, uncertain, before deciding to hold steady, a quiet oath against the dark. Inside, nothing rushes. The tavern has become its truest self, not a place to eat, not a stop along the way, but a harbor. You're still in the same seat, though you couldn't say how long. Time here has gone soft around the edges. It no longer counts in hours or bells, but in the weight of your limbs and the shape of silence. The barwoman has returned behind the counter, polishing a mug not because it needs it, but because the rhythm helps her think. The boy sits now. A rare moment. His hands are stained with ash and herbs, his shirt a shade darker than it was this morning. He cradles a wooden bowl and blows on its contents, steam catching the candlelight like a thin veil. He eats quietly. Even his chewing has a rhythm. A pair of men enter. They're not loud, not yet. But their boots are. They carry the air of the forge, soot and sweat, and the singed smell of coal baked into their skin. Their tunics are loose, their beards full of sparks that never caught. They greet no one, not even each other, though clearly they've arrived together. They drop heavy coin onto the table. Not carefully, not rudely, just the way people do when they've carried weight all day and want to set something down. The barwoman glances at the coins, then at the men, then nods. 1 drink each. No more for now. Even in a tavern, there are rules. You notice, for the first time, how the air has changed. Not colder. Just stiller, as though the walls have taken a long breath and are holding it. The fire remains, low, steady, glowing like the belly of an old beast, too tired to roar, but still unwilling to sleep. Someone coughs in the corner. Not you. Not the boy. Not the Smiths. Someone else. A traveller, perhaps, who slipped in so quietly that the room accepted them without question. They sit beside the fire, shoulders draped in a dark cloak, boots wrapped in fabric, head bowed. You don't see their face. You don't need to. In places like this, you learn to feel presence more than see it, and theirs is weary deep. The kind of tired that comes from stories too old to tell. The boy finishes his bowl. He doesn't scrape it. He leaves a little, always leave a little, his mother must have taught. Him, or maybe the barwoman did, or maybe the tavern itself, who can say? He rises, carries the bowl behind the counter, and disappears again into the back. One of the Smiths says something. Not a sentence, just a word. You don't catch it, but it's enough to make the other laugh. Low and rough, like boots dragging through gravel. Still, they don't grow loud, not yet. Even their laughter seems to respect the hush. The door opens again. No one enters, just the wind. It rushes in like a curious ghost, flutters the straw on the floor, kisses the candle flame, and leaves. The door swings. Once more and settles. You glance up. No latch. Just the weight of wood on wood. Old hinges that creak like memories. And yet, everything feels safe. You've known doors that bite. This one simply exhales. The traveller near the hearth shifts. Their cloak slips. A glimpse of a hand, thin, strong, scarred, a fighter, a farmer, a mother. It doesn't matter. Here they are simply another breath in the room, another soul drinking in warmth. You feel no urge to know them, only to share this moment in silence. The barwoman steps out from behind the counter with a cloth and a bowl of warmed water. She kneels beside the fire. She says nothing, but gently, without permission, she begins to wash the traveller's hands. The room watches, not in curiosity, not in pity, just watches the way trees watch a birdland, the way a still pond watches the moon rise. The traveller doesn't flinch. Their hands open one by one, and the water turns grey. She wipes, then dries, then returns behind the counter. No thanks are given. None are expected. One of the Smiths sets down his mug too hard. A bit spills, but not enough to matter. He mumbles, the other replies. Their words are thicker now. The ale has begun its work, but the barwoman watches closely. If their voices rise beyond the rhythm of the fire, she will intervene, and they know it. They are not fools, just tired men with loud lives and heavy arms. They quiet. The boy returns with a bundle of dried herbs. He hangs them above the fire. They hiss slightly. Release a scent like old pine and sharp mint. You breathe deeper. The room does too. Even the shadows seem to inhale. It's not magic. Not truly, but it feels close, and sometimes that's enough. The candle near your table sputters. Not out, just a reminder. Wax low. Wick weary, but the flame holds. You adjust your seat slightly. The wood creaks and the sound is accepted. No one minds. No one stirs. You belong here, as much as the fire, as much as the chairs, as much as the ghosts in the floorboards. You notice now how the walls are not straight, not quite. They lean, bow, sigh, as though they've been listening for centuries and grown tired of standing still. One beam is marked with scratches, a tally, maybe, or a message long lost. You run your fingers across it, and the wood feels warm. Outside, the wind rises again, not angry, just lonely. It presses against the walls, asking to come in, but the tavern holds firm. Tonight, only chosen things may enter, and you somehow were chosen. The smiths finish their drink. They leave more coins than needed, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps out of respect, perhaps because they know they took more than they gave. They nod at the barwoman. She nods back. Nothing. More, they leave, their boots heavy again, but this time their silence is grateful. The traveller stirs. They rise not quickly, but without pain. Their cloak falls back into place. They approach the bar, place a small object on the counter. You can't see it. You don't need to. The barwoman nods. The traveller turns and leaves. The door doesn't creak this time. It whispers shut, as if saying just good night. You sit alone now. Not truly, the boy sweeps again. The barwoman polishes a mug already clean, but you are the last guest, and that feels right. This night was for you. To remember something, to forget something, to breathe, to rest. You close your eyes. The fire sighs, the candle dies. The tavern holds you, the quiet, still, complete. You're not sure how long your eyes were closed. A minute, maybe, or an hour. Time in the boar and barley does not pass. It loosens. The fire is no longer red. It is deep orange, almost the color of embers on the edge of sleep. The logs have broken down into thick, glowing shapes, like the outline of forgotten cities buried beneath ash. A single candle remains. Its flame bends ever so slightly with each movement in the room. The quiet sweep of the boy's broom, the slow rise of the barwoman's chest as she breathes. Even your own presence makes the light flicker, as if your thoughts could stir the air. The door has not opened in some time. The night outside has reached its full depth. No more visitors, no more travelers looking for shelter or wine. Only you remain, and the tavern, and those who have earned the right to stay behind after the story ends. You rise, not hurriedly. Your legs are stiff, but not sore. The bench creaks beneath you, like a loyal hound rising from sleep. You stretch a little, the motion small, respectful. You don't want to disturb the hush that has settled over everything like a blanket laid down by unseen hands. The boy looks at you but says nothing. He simply nods, once, the kind of nod that acknowledges something larger than words. You were here. You stayed. You saw it through. The barwoman is at the counter still, not cleaning now, just sitting. Her arms folded, her face resting lightly on one hand, her gaze not fixed on anything. Or maybe fixed on everything. The whole room all at once, the memory of every soul who passed through its doors today. You walk toward her, not because you have something to say, but because you don't, And that somehow makes this the right moment. On the counter is a small plate with a crust of bread and a smear of cheese half wrapped in cloth. She pushes it toward you gently, not as an offer but as a reminder. Eat something, even if it's just to carry the night a little longer. You break off a piece. Chew slowly. It's stale, but not unpleasant. There's a softness at the center, as if the loaf remembers being warm once. The cheese has begun to sweat, but the salt sharpens your senses, gently pulling you back into your body, reminding you that sleep is near. But not yet. The boy finishes sweeping. He sets the broom against the door, not upright, but leaned at a sleepy angle. A practiced motion. He's done this 1,000 times. He pours water into a copper basin and washes his hands slowly. Then he wipes them on a rag that hangs by the hearth. Not clean, but familiar. He doesn't speak, doesn't yawn, just blinks a little longer between glances, his body dimming like the fire behind him. You sit again, this time on the bench by the wall. Not your first seat is but close enough. The candle beside you is nearly gone, its wick bends, forming a soft black curl like the last stroke of a letter not yet finished. You watch it with a kind of reverence. It has lit so many faces tonight, and now, like you, it is ready to rest. Outside, the wind is low. It has dropped beneath the eaves, no longer rattling the shutters or sighing down the chimney. It lies still now, as if sleeping just beyond the stone walls. A dog barks somewhere, far faint, twice, then quiet. Even the night creatures know this hour is sacred. The barwoman rises. She moves slowly, stretching her back. You can almost hear the years shift across her bones like old chairs dragged across wooden floors. She walks to the hearth and places a small iron lid over the embers. Not to smother them, just to say good night. The glow softens, the light fades, but the warmth lingers. She walks past you, placing a hand gently on the back of your shoulder, not pressing, not guiding, just letting you know. You don't need to leave, but you can. The tavern is not closing, it is folding, like a letter after. Reading, like a song reaching its final hum. You don't move yet, not quite. Your eyes drift to the shelves behind the bar, filled with odd things. Pewter cups, dried bundles of lavender, a chipped bowl painted with horses, a string of tiny bells tied to a bit of red cloth. No two things match, and yet everything fits, like a village made of stories, like this room, like this night. The boy snuffs the second-to-last candle. Only yours remains. It sputters slightly. You look down into the flame, and it feels like it's looking back. The floorboards are cool beneath your boots as you finally stand again. The tavern does not say goodbye. It never does. It only watches as you stretch once more, as you press a small coin to the counter, not for the bread or the warmth, but for the silence. For the space, for being allowed to be here. The boy opens the door for you. He doesn't speak, but his eyes say what no words could. Come back, or don't. Either way, this place will remember you. The night air kisses your cheeks as you step outside. It is colder than you expected, but not unfriendly. The stars are muted behind clouds, and the road is damp beneath your feet. Somewhere an owl stirs. Somewhere a candle is being lit for the first time. But here, the boar and barley has gone to sleep. And so, perhaps will you. You take a few steps down the path. Turn back, the pull. Tavern door is already closed. The windows glow faintly from within. It is not lonely. It is not forgotten. It is simply resting, like a lantern after a long journey. And you? You carry the scent of hearth smoke on your cloak. You carry the rhythm of the candle in your chest. You carry the silence between stories, the hush between footsteps, the warmth between breaths, and as you walk away, slowly, gently, as if afraid to wake the earth, you realize you never truly visited the tavern. It visited you, held you, let you stay, until you were ready to leave. The tavern fades behind you, not because it's far, but because the warmth of it stays so close it blurs everything else. You walk slowly now, as if your boots have grown heavier with stories. The village is almost unrecognizable at this hour. What was noise and chatter just hours ago is now stillness and sighs. Lanterns are out, doors barred, smoke no longer rises from chimneys. Only the cold remains awake, not biting, not cruel, just ever present. A quiet watcher, padding softly over, stone and frostbitten straw. You pass a shuttered bakery. The scent is gone now, but the shape of it, that ghost of flour and yeast and heat, lingers faintly in the wood. You can almost hear yesterday's loaves crackle as they cooled on the racks inside. A thin trail of crumbs sits beneath the doorframe. A mouse has dined well tonight. A cart stands by the side of the road, unhitched, empty, one wheel resting slightly, on a stone. Its planks creak quietly in the breeze, a whisper of old burdens carried too long. Someone forgot to bring it in, or chose not to. In this hour, even chores can sleep. A well stands in the square. By day, it's crowded, hands on ropes, buckets swinging, voices shouting for turn, but now it is still. Its stones are damp with dew. Its rope hangs low. A cup rests beside it, turned upside down like a folded palm. No one will drink again tonight. The water has earned its silence. You walk without aim now. No destination, only movement. As if your body remembers the rhythm of the tavern, the heartbeat of wood, fire, and candlelight, and wants to carry it forward a little longer. Each footstep on the cobblestone is soft, not hesitant, just gentle, a kind of reverence for the slumbering world around you. You reach the chapel, small stone, the door closed but not locked. Inside, a single candle flickers behind the glass of the small window. Someone perhaps keeping vigil, or sleeping in their pew. The bell above hangs motionless. It won't toll until dawn. You nod slightly to the building, as if in thanks for holding its peace so well. Even sanctuaries must rest. A dog lies curled in a doorway. Its fur twitches as you pass, not in alarm but in a dream. It sighs once, then stills. You do not stop. You know the sacredness of a sleeping dog. A little further down the path you pass a patch of frozen mud, still marked with boot prints from the day, some deep, some hurried, some so shallow they barely held their shape. Each one a quiet story, of work, of urgency, of returning home. Now frozen in place, a moment of the day preserved by night. You find yourself near the edge of the village, where the houses give way to field, where fences grow thin, where the world becomes open again. Here the wind returns, not sharp, but insistent. It brushes your cloak, finds your ears, curls around your legs like a cat seeking warmth. You pull your hood up, not because you're cold, but because it feels right. You look up. The sky is clearer now. Clouds have parted just enough to reveal a field of stars, uneven, scattered, ancient, not bright, but steady, as if the heavens themselves have dimmed their lanterns for the sake of those below. One star flickers slightly more than the rest. You watch it. It watches back. And for a brief moment, you forget the weight of your boots, the scratch of wool against your neck, the chill in your toes. You are just breath and gaze. And hush, you turn back. not toward the tavern, but toward the road that leads past it. The village has ended, but your path has not. There's a quiet ahead, a darkness unbroken. But it does not frighten you, the kind of night that lies beyond these. Sleeping Holmes is not empty. It's full of trees bending under frost, of owls watching from branches, of creeks frozen mid-laughter. The world does not sleep all at once, only in turns, and now it is the forest's watch. Still, you wait, just a moment, to feel the village behind you settle into its full sleep, to let the last memory of the tavern press one final warmth against your spine. The wind pauses, the stars hold, you take a breath, not shallow, not deep, just one, the kind that tells the body it is safe to keep moving. You step forward, onto the road. Each footfall is lighter now, not because the world has changed, but because you carry the tavern with you, its stillness, its warmth, its patient, glowing hush. You don't need fire to feel it. You don't need walls to remember it. You only need to walk slowly, gently, like a candle carried through dark woods. Behind you the village dreams, and ahead the world waits. The road doesn't begin sharply. It eases outward like a yawn before sleep. It doesn't demand your steps, it invites it. Laid gently between frozen hedgerows and bare trees, it is a ribbon of earth polished by centuries of hooves, boots, and wooden wheels. You walk slowly. The wind no longer tugs. It rests. The trees on either side seem closer now, not menacing, not looming, just tall, quiet witnesses to the hour. They stand without rustling, their branches bare, their bark darkened with cold dew. A fox may have passed earlier. You see the faintest of prints pressed into the thin crust of frost at the edge of the road, but the tracks veer off into the bramble and vanish like dreams. At dawn, it's past midnight now. Not that any bell told you, but the sky has shifted. The black above has deepened, soaked full of starlight, and the world below holds its breath between hours. A small stream trickles nearby. Thin, not frozen, but quiet. Its edges glassed over with ice. It weaves past a fallen tree, curls around, a knotted root, and disappears into shadow. You pause for a moment near its bank, not because you're tired, but because it feels like a place to listen. The water speaks, not to you, but around you. Its voice is soft, the whisper of time through land, the murmur of cold finding motion, the sigh of things too small to need attention, but too constant to forget. You crouch slightly, touch the earth. It's hard, but not bitter. The grass, browned and crushed by frost, still holds the shape of a summer once remembered. You rise again, your hand damp with night. The road begins to incline gently. You step uphill, your feet making almost no sound. Each step becomes a kind of ritual, measured, quiet, respectful. You notice the stones in the path now, some large and flat, others small and sunk deep from the weight of old wagons, each one worn down in its own way, each one a tiny monument to someone who once passed this way with heavier burdens than yours. At the crest of the hill, you pause. Look, back. The village is gone from view now, tucked beneath the bend, swallowed by trees and blurred by darkness. But you feel it, still warm on your back, like the heat of a fire long after the logs have turned to ash. The tavern lives in your ribs now, and that is enough ahead. The road forks. To the right, a narrow trail into dense woods marked with a single post wrapped in faded cloth. To the left, a broader path following a hedgerow, bordered by stiles and quiet fields. You choose neither for now. You sit, right there on the edge of the road, not in weariness, but in stillness. There is no rush. The road will wait. You close your eyes. The cold brushes your cheeks, not sharply, just present, like a companion walking a few steps behind. You breathe slowly. In, out, the way the barwoman at the tavern did when she wiped the traveller's hands, the way the boy moved when he swept the hearth. Like everything in this world is meant to be done slowly, because speed wears holes in the soul. Somewhere in the far distance, a cock crows, not fully, just once. A sleepy sound. Even the roosters know it's too early, but it's a sign. The first one. The night has not ended, but it has begun to loosen. The horizon is still black, but the stars are rearranging. You rise. Dust. Your hands on your cloak and walk again to the left. The broader path. The one bordered by fence posts wrapped in straw rope. The air is slightly warmer here, not enough to notice, but enough to feel as if the path itself remembers sun. You pass a willow tree. Its branches hang like threads from an old curtain. Frozen droplets cling to its tips, catching starlight like quiet chandeliers. Beneath it lies a stone, flat, broad, and worn in the center. A resting place? A marker. You touch it. It hums slightly with warmth, not heat, but memory. You sit on it briefly, your body forming a quiet silhouette against the glow of the night. You say nothing. Something listens. The field beyond is vast, empty now, but full of ghost work, furrows where wheat once stood, stakes where scarecrows once watched, paths where children once ran. You watch it all in silence, and the silence watches you back. You resume walking. The sky has shifted. Again, still no sun, but a dull light now lives in the east. Not gold, not pink, just less black. The kind of light that says, "Wait, it's coming." You nod, not to the light, but to yourself. A bird stirs in a bush, not flight, just movement, a rustle. A puff, a blink. You don't look, you just smile. Everything is waking up, one nerve at a time. Another bend, another fence. You touch its top rail, rough, splintered, worn by hands, hooves, and time. A bit of red thread is caught on a knot in the wood. A child's sleeve. A prayer ribbon. A scrap of harvest marking. You don't remove it. It belongs here. And you, for now, do too. A barn in the distance, not near enough to hear, but large enough to be felt. Its shape against the dim sky is comforting, like the silhouette of a sleeping ox. You pass a gate slightly ajar, not broken, just left open by someone who knew they'd return before morning. A figure ahead, small, wrapped in wool. Not walking, just standing, facing east. You slow, not out of fear, but respect. Whoever they are, they're part of this hour now. A piece of the hush. You don't approach, you don't disturb, you walk softly to the side and nod once. They don't look, but they feel it. You know they do. The path narrows again, leads to a stone bridge. No rail, just a curve of rock over a thin stream. You cross it without thought, your boots thudding quietly against lichen-covered stone. Below, the water moves, slowly, with purpose, like everything tonight. Beyond the bridge, a tree stump, fresh cut, the center still, pale, ringed with circles like age counted in whispers. You rest your hand on it. It's cold, but smooth. A life ended here, and now another continues. You walk on. The wind returns, gently, wrapping your legs, pushing slightly, not against you, but with you, as if saying, There's more. Keep going. You listen. You always have. The road continues, and so do you. You carry everything now. The fire, the drink, the silence, the breath, the stone, the thread. Every step you take leaves not a mark, but an impression, like a warmth in the air, a trace of presence, a whispered memory that somewhere a traveler passed through at the softest hour of the world and was kind and was quiet and was seen. It begins softly, not with brightness but with color, a grey-blue, pale and watery at first, like milk poured into the sky. Then a little peach, a little lavender, not enough to see by, just enough to notice. The horizon is no longer a silhouette, it is a veil. Thin, cool, barely trembling with the pulse of the waking world. You pause at a bend in the road, not because you're lost, just because the world is starting to glow again, and it seems wrong to keep walking during such a hush. To your left, a row of bare trees, each one arched toward the sky, their limbs reaching like old fingers trying to recall something. The light catches in the tiny webs that stretch between their branches, each one glistening with frozen dew. To your right, a slope. Soft, with last year's hay. The wind moves over it like breath. No animals graze yet, but the earth holds their shapes, their paths, their rests. The land remembers its creatures long after they've passed. You sit, right there on the slope, letting the cold tickle through, the wool of your cloak not shivering, just aware you don't speak. But your breath leaves tiny clouds, soft ghosts of all the things you could have said but didn't, the kind of silence that only appears when everything is listening. Somewhere behind you, a rooster gives in to the inevitability of morning. This, time fully, not a test cry, but the real thing. You smile gently. The sky responds. More blue now, like a sheet pulled slowly back to reveal a slow-beating heart. The path is no longer dark, still dim, but open. You walk again. Each step on the road feels slightly more solid now, as if the world has remembered it exists and is ready to bear your weight again. A robin flits past you, too quick for the eye to catch fully. But the sound of its wings, that fast papery flutter, lingers behind like perfume. You come to a split-rail fence. The field beyond is wide, and something stirs within it. At first, just movement, faint, rhythmic, then form, a shepherd, or perhaps a miller, bent under a small yoke, walking slowly toward a shed. You don't call out, you don't wave, but for a moment, your paths align. You walk in tandem, far apart. Two small figures moving through an old land under a morning not yet born. Eventually he disappears behind a low hill, and you are alone again, but you feel less solitary, because now the world is occupied. Not fully, not yet, but slightly. Like a book whose first page has finally been turned, you round another bend and find a wooden signpost. The paint is mostly worn off, but the shape remains, a tankard carved into the wood, its handle smooth from touch, a memory of the tavern, so far now yet so near in you. The path begins to slope downward. You descend gently, your feet pressing into the soft, thawed earth. The frost has faded from the top layer now, just dark mud. Beneath, the road leads between two moss-covered stone walls. On the other side, a small orchard. Its trees stand bare, twisted in winter stillness. But beneath them, the ground is dotted with fallen leaves, stiff, curled, some glazed with ice. You pause and touch one. It crackles beneath your fingers, but doesn't break, like sleep that resists the stir of waking. Beyond the orchard, a cottage, Smoke curls from its chimney in a fine line. The first you've seen since dusk. You don't approach. But you watch. A woman steps from the door, wrapped in shawl, hair in braids. She carries a bucket and disappears behind the side of the house, perhaps to the well. The chickens will stir soon. The bread will rise. The day will hum. But not yet. She does not look up, and you do not move. The two of you, strangers sharing the last moment of night silence. Further along the road, another structure appears, stone, low, not a house, and a shed or a storehouse perhaps, its door ajar. Inside, shadow and hay. A small bird chirps from the rafters. You lean briefly against the outer wall. Its stone is cool, rough, faintly damp. The world has texture again, edges, sounds, shapes, not just quiet, not just firelight, but form. The road forks again. One path leads into woods that are losing their gloom, the other toward open pasture, speckled with sheep beginning to stir. You walk between them, letting the paths run beside you like thoughts undecided. You don't need to choose. The world opens both ways. You follow the light instead. Wherever it falls, a thin fog rolls in. Not dense, just brushing along the low places. It hugs the edges of stones and clings to the bases of trees. It rises from the stream like breath from lips. You walk through it like a whisper. It curls around your boots, wraps your ankles, then falls away like a curtain slowly being lifted. The wind returns, brisker now, not harsh, just aware, like a steward checking the windows before guests awaken. It ruffles your cloak, moves through your hair, carries the scent of smoke, of straw, of something baking. You smile again, almost there, not to a place but to morning. And then through the mist, the sound, not loud, but real. Footsteps, ahead of you, not far. A traveller, wrapped in wool, carrying a staff. You see the edge of a satchel, the glint of a tin cup. They move with purpose, but not haste. You do not call out, but your steps fall into rhythm behind them. Two strangers walking the same road, both quiet, both awake, both carrying the weight of where they've been. The sky opens further. Pale gold now bleeds into the blue. The clouds are edged with rose. The frost is melting. The path is softer. You no longer feel alone, and yet completely so. The traveller turns off toward a fork you do not take. They vanish into the trees, and you remain alone again, but changed. You find a log, sit, watch the sky, and breathe. Not because you need rest, but because there's nothing more sacred than breathing under an open sky at the edge of morning. You think of the tavern, the laughter, the flicker of firelight on old beams, the silence between the last candle and the door, and the knowledge that for a moment, a few hours, a few heartbeats, you belong to a place that will forget your name, but not your presence, and that you left a piece of stillness there, like a coin on the counter, like a mark in the dust, like a breath between stories. The sun is almost risen now. One more hill, and it will break the edge. But you don't rush. The world doesn't need your speed, only your quiet, only your gaze, only your willingness to walk without trying to arrive. You rise, brush the dew from your cloak, turn your face to the goldening east, and walk on. The first edge of sunlight breaks over the hill. Not quickly, it does not burst through, it eases, like a curtain drawn back by slow, deliberate fingers. Gold spills across the frost-dusted field beside you. At first, only the tops of the grass catch it, then the fence, then the backs of the sheep curled near the hedgerow. Their wool steams slightly in the early light, little puffs of warmth against the cool world. You stand on the road, a figure now fully visible, defined by sun. Outlined. In gold, not grand, not heroic. Just present, like a page half-turned, like a door just barely ajar. The sky has changed completely. What was black just hours ago is now a watery blue, stretched thin and wide. Clouds streak the sky in soft, patient lines, not hurried or thunderous, just there, like breath. A rooster crows again, from closer now, and a second answers, then a third, as if the land is yawning in echoes. In the distance, smoke, more now, from chimneys, from cottages tucked along the hillside. One by one the village stirs. Not your village, not the one where the tavern slept. This is a new one, quieter, smaller. Perhaps just 3 houses and a barn, but enough. Enough to say you've reached another place. The path curves. A man with a wooden cart stands at the bend. He doesn't see you at first. He's adjusting the strap of the sack across his shoulder. The cart is filled with bundles, wrapped in cloth, tied with hemp, maybe bread, maybe tools, maybe dried roots from the forest. He notices you only when you're a few paces away. You nod. He nods back. No words. Just an understanding. 2 travelers passing under the same sky, both too early for conversation, too late for dreaming. The road smooths. No. More frost. The stones are damp now, but no longer sharp underfoot. The air smells different. Baking. Porridge, maybe. Yeast rising and ash. The scent of hearths lit and stirring fires whispering through soot. You pass a cottage. The door is open. A woman stands just inside, pressing her palms against the top of a wooden table. Her back is to you. A child tugs at her skirt. She doesn't turn. But she feels you. You don't stop. You don't intrude. But you carry them with you. That shape of morning work. That softness of early hunger. The road splits again. A wooden sign. No letters, only markings. One a millstone, the other a jug. The jug points left. You smile. It means another tavern lies that way, but you don't turn. Not yet. One tavern is enough for a single night. Too much comfort can dull the meaning of it. Too many flames, and the darkness never finds room to speak. A stream appears beside you, wider than before, more awake. Its water is louder now, not shouting but singing. It moves in curves, not lines. It bounces against smooth rocks and wraps around the ankles of leaning trees. A kingfisher flits above it, briefly, a flick of blue and gone again, like laughter overheard but never understood. The sun climbs, not high, just enough. Its light slips through branches and onto the road in stripes. You walk through them. Light, shadow, light, shadow. A rhythm older than language. You pass another field. 2 men are working there already. One swings a scythe in slow, even arcs. The other piles brushwood onto a cart. Neither speaks. Their movements are their language, and you do not disturb their grammar. You're merely a footnote in their sentence, passing by. The tavern's warmth is still with you. Not as a memory, but as a presence. It has settled into your spine. It flickers behind your breath. It shapes how your feet meet the ground, not hurried, not careless, but with weight, with rhythm, with softness, as if you carry something sacred that must not be spilled. You come to a small bridge, wooden, low, crossing the stream. It creaks gently under your step, not in protest, but in greeting. On the other side, a path that curves uphill, lined. with stone walls thick with moss. You take it, not because it promises anything, but because it asks nothing. At the top of the hill, a view wider than before. Fields unroll like a quilt left out overnight. Dew still clings to everything. Far off, you can see the smoke of other villages, thin wisps rising like thoughts. The road stretches ahead, still soft, still curving but brighter now, and behind you, nothing. No footprints, no marks, only the warmth in your chest that says, you have passed through. You sit on a stone. Let your breath catch up to your body. The wind moves gently around your shoulders. Birds begin to fill the air with sound, not a song, just life. Wings, pecks, calls, and somewhere, the quiet clinking of a bell tied to a goat's neck. You lean back. The sky overhead is pale now, not empty, just vast. It hums, not loudly, but enough, as if the heavens themselves are stretching after a long sleep. You think of the tavern again, not just the fire, not just the bread, not just the sound of mugs set gently on worn oak, but the space, the pause, the permission it gave you to stop, to breathe, to not hurry. And now you carry that pause with you, even as the world wakes, even as the sun rises, even as footsteps quicken and voices lift and animals call for food. You walk slowly, because speed was never the point. You rise again and step onto the road. Your cloak catches in the wind. Your boots press softly into the warming earth, and ahead lies only more of the same road, the same light, the same soft hum of a world turning so slowly it feels like stillness. And you are not heading toward anything. You are simply moving within it, like a candle that does not walk and but is carried, and in its flicker the world is seen. By now the sun has fully risen, but it has not hurried. It moves slowly, as if careful not to wake the earth too quickly. The light is no longer gold, it is pale and steady, a blanket drawn across the hills, soft, smooth, without edges. Bird song is constant now, not loud, just uninterrupted. It comes in layers, chirps from low bushes, thrums from treetops, a crow's voice from far off, broken into pieces by the wind. The road is dry here, packed earth, pebbles embedded like teeth in old wood, and your boots make a different sound than before, less of a hush, more of a soft crunch, but it's not unwelcome. It's just morning's voice. Every step you take feels more like belonging, less like travel. You aren't arriving anywhere, you're just being here. On your left, a stretch of pasture, dandelions, small and tight, their petals barely open. A calf walks beside its mother, slow, learning. Their hooves press gently into the mud. Their tails swish like whispers across parchment. The air smells faintly of hay. Not sweet, but honest. A scent that carries work, sleep, hunger, and time. A man passes you on the road, older, face lined, back slightly bent. He carries a wooden rake over one shoulder. He does not speak, but he nods once, not deeply, just enough. It's a nod you've seen before, not in this man, but in others, the kind of nod that says you are walking gently. So I respect that, and then he continues on, and the space he leaves behind is filled with bird call again. You pass under an archway of trees, not planted, just grown that way over time. Their branches bend toward one another, not touching, but almost, like two hands stopped just before the prayer. The air here is cooler. It smells of bark and rain and things not yet named. A single feather lies in the path, small, pale brown. You do not pick it up. You only notice it and keep walking. Your hands are warm now, not from fire, not from effort, but from holding something invisible, a feeling maybe, a slowness, a stillness carried forward. You lift one hand and flex the fingers gently. They creak just a little, like old hinges, that are still strong. Ahead a stone wall, low moss. Ahead a stone wall, low, moss-covered, patient. It runs along the side of the path like an old companion, saying nothing, just walking beside you in its own way. The stones are different sizes, no two the same. Some rounded, others sharp. Some buried deep, others stacked lightly, all pressed together by hands long forgotten, by sweat that dried in centuries past. You run your fingers along the top of the wall. It's rough, cool, familiar. You've never touched it before, and yet it feels like you've always known it would be there, the way it rises with the slope, dips near a brook, then carries on as if it has no destination, only a duty to exist. Past the wall, a garden unkempt but not abandoned, overgrown with the sort of plants that grow where nobody's asked them to. Thistle, burdock, mallow, but tucked among them a few shoots of something human. Parsley, maybe rosemary, a patch of carrots that have gone soft with age. A wooden gate swings gently in the breeze. No lock, just a hook and a loop, the kind of entrance you pass not to keep others out, but to remind them to notice. You walk by, not because you're unwelcome, but because the garden seems complete without interruption. It doesn't need a visitor. It simply needs to be, and today it is doing that perfectly. The road widens now, not by much, but enough that two could walk side by side without brushing shoulders. You imagine someone walking with you, not a person you know, not even a voice you recognize, just the idea of company. A silent presence with the same pace, the same breath, the same reverence for quiet. Perhaps they were at the tavern too. Perhaps you sat across from them without noticing. Two strangers staring into firelight, each carrying a different sadness wrapped in the same kind of stillness. You pass a tree that has split, a great oak once proud and tall, now hollowed down the center, its bark blackened in places, its core open to the sky. But it is not dead. From one side a small branch sprouts with fresh leaves, vibrant, unbothered. Quiet declaration, I remain. You pause and place a hand against the bark. Rough, dry, honest, it doesn't ask for pity. Only acknowledgement, and you give it that. Just a breath's worth, then move on. Now the path turns soft again, grass growing in patches where boots haven't fallen in weeks. It narrows, not by force, but by design, as if it's leading you somewhere. Fewer have been. A wooden sign appears, not painted, just carved quiet pasture. No need to shout. You smile, you weren't shouting anyway. There's a hill ahead, gentle, low, covered in short grass and little white flowers. You take it slowly, not because it's steep, but because it feels like a place that deserves slowness. Each step you take presses softly into the soil. Each blade of grass leans, then rises again once you've passed. At the top, you stop, not because you're tired, but because everything below has opened up, and you don't want to look away too quickly. Below you, the valley, folded in mist, still asleep in places. You see the lines of distant fences, the corners of thatched roofs, the wavy shapes of livestock beginning to wander from their pens. You see a barn door swing open. A woman tosses grain. Birds descend in a rush, then scatter. All of it silent from here, like a painting made of breathing things. The sun has climbed, but it's not harsh. Its light pools across the valley like honey spilled gently from a cup. Nothing burns, everything warms, even your thoughts, even the memory of yesterday. You sit right there in the grass, not to reflect, not to plan, but to pause, to hold this moment like a stone warmed in your palm. You think of the tavern again, not the laughter, not the ale, not the smell of stew, but the sound of wood under your elbow, the way the candle leaned in the draught, the hush just before the barmaid refilled your mug, the small invisible kindnesses that made the room feel less like a place and more like a pause in the world's noise. You hear bells now. Distant, not church bells, not grand, but small, tied to collars, to doors, to carts. They do not announce anything. They simply mark the passing of time, as if to say, you're still. Here that matters. You lie back in the grass, hands folded on your chest, eyes half closed, and the clouds above move without edge or sound. They don't rush, they don't scatter. They just drift, like stories that don't need endings. A bird lands near your boot. It hops once, tilts its head, then moves on. You don't. Follow it, you don't rise, you just breathe, you just are. The tavern is far behind you now, or perhaps not. Perhaps it's in the shape your body has taken as it rests here. In the quiet way you hold your breath when the wind moves just right. In the fact that for once you feel no need to say or fix or change anything. You simply exist. In the echo of firelight, in the rhythm of footfalls on old roads, in the hush between dawn and day. Nothing ends. Not really. The tavern's door closed behind you, yes. The night passed, the fields changed, but everything that mattered stayed, the weight of a wooden mug, the softness of old wool, the shared glance between strangers. They're all here now, in your bones, your shadow, your silence, and wherever you go next, you'll carry them with you. And so the story fades, not with an ending, but with a breath, a long, gentle breath. Under the rising sun, and the sense that somewhere another tavern waits, not for your arrival, but for your quiet. Good night.